Hello y'all. Now here's another project. This is my version of a small metal melting furnace. It's made pretty much exactly according to the design by Geoff, who is known as the VegOilGuy on YouTube. Very helpful guy, and he's kind of refined this very nice little design from an original idea by Grant Thompson, who calls himself the King of Random. So this is my take. The furnace is built using a 20-litre vegetable oil drum, and it's built exactly according to Geoff's design, apart from at the top my handles are a bit different from his, because he used pieces of flattened copper pipe screwed into the sides of the lid, whereas I've used inverted U-bolts, and they're anchored in the refractory cement with some wing nuts and other types of nuts just to hold it into the cement. And that's my only major concern at this point, never having used this furnace yet. My worry is that maybe the expansion of the metal nuts and so on inside the cement could cause it to crack. I'm hoping that won't happen. If it does, well, I'll just have to go back to the drawing board and do something different. But I wanted to do that because I felt that the handles might just be a little bit more sturdy and robust, and also be able to put hooks in them to lift them when the whole thing's hot. Other than that, it's the same as VegOilGuy's furnace. I'll show you inside in a minute. Let's call it the Consumer's Pride version. And at the moment, I've got it connected up to an air blower, a hand-operated, hand-cranked air blower, which are used for barbecues and little forges and so on and so forth. This version of, well, it's had mixed reviews online, shall we say, but it seems to be okay to me. It blows out air all right. It's just how long it lasts and how long it stands up to the strains and stresses of the job. But, you know, I haven't used it yet, so time will tell. And then these steel tubes, I found an old piece of car exhaust lying beside the road, which has turned out to be very handy, and then linking onto the steel pipe, which goes straight into the furnace. Just take the lid off and let you have a look inside. It's according to the usual pattern. You can just see there's a zoom issue on this tablet PC, but never mind. Yeah, maybe you can see in there that the pipe goes in at the angle, and that of course is the way it's supposed to be, so that you create a vortex of fire around your crucible or whatever. And there's the lid. As you've seen, it's just standard with the hole in the middle big enough to take you know, Coke cans and stuff like that to melt. Now if you want to know how to make this furnace, just look up VegOilGuy. I've put a link in the description below. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, all credit to him. What else? Yeah, so the handles is the only difference from his design so far. You will see that it's sitting on a kind of wire frame, and then the blower is sitting on another one. These are the old steel frames from IKEA wickerwork stools. The stools had seen better days, so I set fire to the wickerwork. It went up like a torch, leaving me with these steel frames. And the reason I've sat it on that is because of the way that I'm going to insulate the furnace, and that is again another difference from Geoff's design, but we'll come to that in due course. And I've just got the blower sitting on the other one of these just to give it the same height. I'll probably paint these, you know, with black stove paint or something eventually, just to make them look a bit better. So it's just about to have its initial firing, just to make sure all the refractory cement is dry and so on. For that reason, I'm doing it with the insulation off, because you're supposed to apparently give it a gentle heat. You take it up to a good old temperature, but do it gently. And I figure that if it's not cocooned in insulation, it's going to dissipate heat a bit more out of the sides, and maybe not be heated quite so severely the first time. But I'll show you it later with the insulation on. But for now, I'm going to switch off this camera and then make a fire inside of here with wood and charcoal for its initial firing, which I'm quite excited about, really. The other thing I want to say is, before I do that, is that, so it's set up here with an air blower. That will be when I use wood and charcoal as the fuel, and I may use that more when I'm using it as a little forge rather than a foundry. But I've got more steel tubes that fit through the hole in the side of the furnace, and I'm going to make a propane burner for it, and maybe even Geoff's waste vegetable oil burner, which he says is a very good fuel. So you can see I'm heavily influenced by VegOilGuy, and why not? This is what YouTube's all about, you know, exchanging ideas. And so all these 3 different types of burner, the plan is that they'll all be interchangeable to make it a versatile little furnace and forge. Okay, I'll get the fire going and then I'll show you it later on once there's a fire inside it. So here we go. Just lit it, it's first fire. Just some newspaper and some small sticks to start off with. No turning back now. Already see that the blower has quite a marked effect, even when turning it quite slowly. That gives me a lot of optimism for how effective this is going to be. Okay, I'll switch the camera off again and switch it back on when we're under full steam. Yes, having lit a million fires in my life, but never having used a furnace before, I have now seen quite clearly what makes the difference between a fire and a furnace. It's this. So here we are for now. We're getting up to a decent temperature inside. It's charcoal that's in there now with the wood. I'm still taking it fairly easy though, because I don't want to overdo it with the heat on its first firing. There's a surprising amount of steam and water coming out of the refractory, even though it's quite a while since I cast it. So I'm just going to keep it ticking over for a bit of time now and just let that process happen. And then I'll come back to you later on with a little feature on the insulation that I've decided to use. See you later. Okay, one day later, and here's the progress. The furnace is now insulated. Instead of using VegOilGuy's idea of a plaster surround within a kind of enclosing shell, I decided against that because I thought it would be a bit too heavy to try to move around, and also I think that he had some problems with cracking, although I don't think they were insurmountable. I decided to go for a different option. This is wrapped in ceramic fibre blanket. It looks really innocent, doesn't it? You know, like lamb's wool. But you point a blowtorch at this and it doesn't even touch it. It just stays there looking white and happy with itself. I don't suppose it's going to look white for very long though, because it's bound to get grubby and grimy. And it's only tied on with wire, 3 hoops of wire tying it around the furnace. So I'm going to have to handle it a bit carefully when I'm transporting it and so on, and it may be that at some point it'll have to be replaced. But as long as I'm careful with it, I don't think it's going to be a major issue. The metal stand that it's on, as I said earlier, is the framework for an IKEA wickerwork stool. So it's plenty sturdy enough. It's designed to be sat on by people. So the furnace isn't going to, you know, make it collapse or anything like that. And for the insulation of the bottom layer, you'll be able to see I tied a circle of ceramic fibre blanket onto the underside of the stool, because I didn't want the furnace wobbling about and precariously on top of a cushion. So there is a danger, I understand, that the metal parts, i.e. the original vegetable oil drum, because it's enclosed in this serious insulation, could get superheated and start to deteriorate. I guess that's possible. We'll just have to keep an eye. It might be that the refractory cement cylinder will be adequate anyway, even if the metal does deteriorate. The same might happen to the metal frame here that it's sitting on. Again, I'll just have to suck it and see. But for now, I have the feeling that it's not a bad setup. I've only fired it once, and that was yesterday with the for the curing firing. So you'll have a look inside there. You can see it's been fired. It's all looking good. My concerns about the possibility of cracking round the handles because of expansion of metal inside the cement were unfounded, at least so far. The pipe for the blower, as you can see, just tucks into the seam of the blanket, and there you go. It's all pretty self-explanatory. There's even a wee hat for it, look. There you go. Whether it'll ever be necessary to use that, I don't know, but I think that's pretty seriously insulated, and I guess could generate a formidable amount of heat. So that's about it, really. Clearly, the one topic that I haven't touched on, well, the two topics I haven't touched on so far are burners. You know, this is an air blower, a hand-operated air blower. I'm going to make a propane propane burner as well, maybe a vegetable oil burner as well. And the other topic is crucibles and tools to lift them in and out the foundry with. I may come back to, you know, touch on these topics if I do anything out of the ordinary with it, but if not, if you don't hear from me anymore on this subject, then assume that no news is good news. If anything about this doesn't work, I will be transparent about that. So there it is, all ready to go, and I'm looking forward to using it. Get some aluminium melted, get some, you know, iron heated red hot, steel heated red hot to hammer and make shapes out of, and so on and so forth. Just after I've finished the last bit and dismantled the setup to put away, I realised that there is an issue with this, and you may have spotted it already, which is that when you put the lid on, even with this top cover, should you decide to use it, there's a whole area which is the edge of the lid, which is a potential source of heat loss and may actually make a bit of a nonsense out of insulating the whole body of the thing. So rather than take it all off, I just cut another piece of ceramic blanket, which is like this ring, and that goes over there like that, and when using the furnace with its lid, which it will be most of the time, then that takes it right up to the top. Now in some ways it was fortuitous because I didn't really want to have extra blankets sticking up over the edge of the lid, because when you're not using lid, when you're using it as a forge, that to me would be untidy and would get in the way. So the good thing about this is that the lid comes off, and that comes off with it, leaving it like that. So all in all, maybe a happy accident. And then to me that is pretty good now, with that like that, and that over the top if you decide you want it. It's completely enclosed, and I imagine with a propane torch in there it would go up to quite some spectacular temperature. Okay folks, see you later.